Hello and welcome to Math. Today we are going to be looking at fractions, specifically equivalent fractions. Here we go, recognizing equivalent fractions. So Lily gets her sandwich cut in half, Maya gets hers cut in quarters. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to draw my two little sandwiches. So I've got my one sandwich, and I've got my two sandwiches. Just pretend they're the same size and that they look like bread. All right, so I have Lily's here and Maya's here. So Lily gets her sandwich cut in half. So Maya gets hers cut in quarters. You may be thinking, but Miss Riley, what if I don't know what a half or what a quarter is? Well, my dear children, by grade 5, you probably should know what a half is, but there is a hint in the numbers. So here you have half. A half looks like this, and the denominator tells you how many pieces to cut it into, the whole sandwich. So the whole sandwich needs to be cut into 2 pieces, 1, 2. For Maya's is cut into quarters. So a quarter is cut into 4 pieces. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's how I knew what to cut it into. All right, so now the question. Lily ate half of her sandwich. Maya ate 2/4 of hers. So are they equivalent fractions? What does it mean by are they equivalent fractions? It means, did they eat the same amount? So let's find out. I'm going to get my color. Today I'm kind of feeling purple. So Lily ate half, so I'm coloring 1 of the 2 pieces. 1 piece, 1 piece. There's 1 piece. All right, and Maya ate 2/4, so I am coloring in 2 of these. 1. I already colored this in, but I really didn't want it colored in, so I kind of erased it because it is still 2/4 of the sandwich. I'm coloring 2 of the 4 pieces, but really what I wanted to demonstrate to you, I should have colored it in down here. So I think it'll be more obvious if I color it in down here. So I'm coloring in the bottom part. And because I'm using a dark color, I'm kind of staying away from the line a little bit so that my teacher, lovely person that she is, can see how many sections I've colored. So important for the teacher to be able to figure out what you've done. So we got to pretend that this is not colored at all. It's still white as a ghost, shall we say. Just by looking at this, you can see that this is half of a sandwich, and this is also half of a sandwich that was eaten. So Lily still has this whole side, and Maya still has this whole side. So yes, they're equivalent fractions. They ate the same amount. Even though Maya ate 2 pieces of the 4, the 2 pieces are still only half of the sandwich. Yes, they ate the same amount. Mrs. Riley should have, I totally should have put a capital on that. All right. Yes, they ate the same amount. So we have, if Lily ate 1/2 of her sandwich and Maya ate 3/4, are these equivalent fractions? How do you know? It hasn't told us a strategy, so we can do it any way we want. We can do it like a little diagram again. So 1 sandwich, kinda, sorta. 2 sandwiches. Okay. And then Maya's is cut into 4. Lily's is cut in half. So Lily ate half of her sandwich. I'm going to do the green this time. Lily ate half. Oh, you can't hardly see that green. It's so light. There's half. And Maya ate 3 pieces this time. 3 out of 4. So 1, 2, 3. So the green pieces are gone because they're in their tummies. So how do you know if these are equivalent or not? Well, when I color them in, I can see that they're not the same. It's very obvious. So that's how I know. When I make a model of the 2 fractions, I can see that they are not the same. Now, I'm going to go on to the next question here, and then we're going to come back to this because I'm going to show you a second way to solve this. We touched on it a little bit in the last video, and now I'm going to show you again. So this last part here is creating equivalent fractions. So what an equivalent fraction is a fraction that means the same thing, like our 2/4 and our 1/2 from the sandwich question at the top of the page. So what we're going to do is we're going to use some multiplication or some division to make equivalent fractions. So the first one says, what is an equivalent fraction to 3/6? So if I have 3/6, all I'm going to do is, it's very small already. I can't get smaller than 3. So I'm going to multiply and get bigger. So I can pick any number I want. I could pick 2. So if I times this, if I multiply this by 2, I almost wrote out the word multiply. If I multiply this by 2, then that's going to give me the new denominator. So 6 times 2 is 12. And whatever I do to the bottom, I've got to do to the top. So 3 is also going to be times multiplied by 2. So 3 times 2 is 6. So 3/6 is an equivalent fraction to 6/12. Now I could pick a different number too. I can times it by anything. I can multiply it by anything. So I can start with my 3/6 again. And this time maybe I'll multiply it by 3. So whatever I do to the bottom, I have to do to the top. So what's my new equivalent fraction going to be? 6 times 3 is 18. 3 times 3 is 9. So 3/6, 6/12, 9/18, they're all equivalent fractions. If I was to cut a shape into 18 pieces and color 9 of them in, then it would look, the whole thing would look exactly the same as if I had 3/6 colored in. Kind of like our sandwiches at the top with Lily eating half and Maya eating 2/4. How did we get that? Well, 1/2 and 2/4 are equivalent fractions. Okay, so for the bottom here, we're going to go the other way. So we have 20/30. Now, we can't, well, we could multiply and go bigger, but because this is already big numbers and they do divide down evenly, we're going to divide and make them smaller equivalent fractions. So we have 20/30. So whatever we do to one, we have to do to the other. So if I divide this by 2, then I have to divide this by 2. So my new equivalent fraction is going to be 30 divided by 2 is 15, and 20 divided by 2 is 10. And that's it. So 10/15 is an equivalent fraction to 20/30. I can also divide by 5. These are both round numbers. So I could do 20/30, and whatever I do to one, I have to divide the same to the other. So this new equivalent fraction is going to be 30 divided by 5 is 6, 20 divided by 5 is 4. That's so cool. We can even do tens. 20 over 30. We're going to divide the top by 10. Whatever we do to one, we got to do to the other. So our new equivalent fraction is going to be 30 divided by 10 is 3. 20 divided by 10 is 2. So 2/3, 4 sixths, 10 fifteenths, and 20 thirtieths are all equivalent fractions. In the big picture, they all look the same. They all mean the same amount of the whole is gone. And that's it. That's equivalent fractions. So now that we know how to do the equivalent fractions with multiplying and dividing, we're going to come back to this sandwich question now. So instead of drawing it, if I didn't want to draw it, because we're all good at different things, maybe we're just not very good at drawing. Maybe we would rather do it with division or multiplication. So what we're going to do is we have half and we have 3/4. And we did this a little bit on the other page. But what we're going to do is we're going to find a common denominator. Make them the same. So if I have 2 on the bottom and 4 on the bottom over here, these are the two denominators, I can actually do something to this one that will make it the same as this one. So if I times 2 by 2, I will get 4. So if I times this by 2, I have to do the same thing to the top. So 2 times 2 is 4. 1 times 2 is 2. So now I don't have to do anything to this one because we already have a common denominator. See that? So now it's easy to see that on this sandwich, they've eaten 2 pieces, and on this sandwich, they've eaten 3. This one has had more eaten. Maya ate more. And your concluding sentence or your explanation could be, I know this because when I make equivalent fractions, when I make the denominators match, then I can compare the numerators and find out which is more. So that's a very long sentence, but I will write it out because I'm a great student, and the more work I give the teacher, the more chances she's got to give me good marks because I've included everything. I know this because when I make equivalent fractions, I can compare the numerators easily. And that's it. All right. Study hard for your tests, little minions. You'll do great.